Welcome to the first episode of Two Things That You Don't Talk About. My name is Cody Schroeder, and if you find yourself stumbling upon this empty corner of the internet to my table this evening, I welcome you. This episode is going to be weird compared to the ones that will follow, partly because this is the first episode and I have no idea what I'm doing. I hope this episode is awesome, and simultaneously the worst episode I make. I also hope that it introduces you to me and establishes why I decided to chime in to this tumultuous political landscape. The reason is multifaceted and intricate, but I'm going to focus on a broad overview and make a heartfelt plea for community. The things I say will be controversial to some, and that is the point. I look around myself every day now and wonder exactly how America arrived at this point. I see the divide, the immorality, the aimless crowds of lost men and women. I see all the totalitarian signs and flags. I've been studying American politics for more than 16 years. I've read hundreds of books, cling to faith, hope, and could explain intricate policy, call out media lies, and extrapolate on ideas and complex topics. But I have no idea what can bring us together. We don't talk anymore. We don't have community, shared values, or similar ideas of good and righteousness. We kicked God out. We excuse all sorts of evils because at least they aren't the other guy. We are cowards to authority, and for the first time in my life, I have no faith in my institutions. We live alone in our pods, worship celebrities, and pretend internet people are our friends. We are addicted to drugs and sex and porn. We hate people, and we've become selfish. And yet, we give more to charity than any other country. We foster some of the safest environments for children, violently even. And we are the hardest workers in the world. I'm going to finish off my monologue here with two things that I think need to happen, and I'm going to explore some of those ideas a little bit more. Firstly, we need to get out of the house and do real things again. I don't care if you like people, I don't care if you know what to do, and I don't care if you're comfortable. Our pods will kill us, our isolation blinds us, and our apathy will be our ruin. The second is this: we need to care for each other. We need men's groups, church groups, women's groups, book clubs, hikers, planters, shooters, hunters, bikers, etc. We need to be regulars at diners, libraries, churches, bakers, mom and pop shops, game shops. Ultimately, we need to foster community and to let the internet and TV be tools, not run our lives. We need to reject the notion that comfort and ease are the most sought after commodities, and we need to start building, learning, baking, and doing again. Now put down the bong, turn off your porn, and plug into reality. Otherwise, Big Brother's coming. And if we aren't ready to tell them, heck off with your nonsense, then there will be nothing that we can do. And I think that about summarizes the idea that I'm trying to cement here. I'm really looking at the world right now, and I'm at a loss. I see America going down a weird path, We got politicians who are perfectly fine with espousing ideas of communism and socialism. One being a totalitarian power that establishes the fact that the government controls all property, which means that they can tax you whatever and take whatever they want from you, give it to whomever they want, whenever they think it's just, or unjust, as it always ends up. And the other one being the system of economic power that usually facilitates the same goal. I mean, at that point, they claim that it's workers that own the institutions and things like that, but they'll do it through the government, which means that they'll take the workers' money and redistribute it through these means. So it's not going to end up being like some of these stock trade companies like Winco, which I fully support their ability to do as a private company and give equity to their employees in the company and get stock options and things like that. So they're all part owners. I think that's awesome. I love the idea that they get quarterly checks for how well the business does. And it really helps them give pride and opportunity to their work, because it's not just working for somebody else and having their labor come down and their time exchanged for their value of their service or whatever, so that way other people can get the goods that they need at the grocery store. These people also own the means of production, as a communist would say, or capital. And I think that's pretty cool. Obviously, they own a small percentage of it, but it's still something that they can do, and things that they're given as bonuses and options that they have to buy more into to make the company theirs. I think that's really awesome. I really do. I think that that's a cool thing that they were able to set out. You know what I don't think is awesome? I don't think it's awesome when the federal government decides that they get to mandate that your company has to run a certain way, or they get to take the labor that you've been working on this whole time and turn it into their own thing. They get to decide what your healthcare is going to look like. They get to decide how you get educated and the things that you get taught. What is real history and what's not real history, what's real science and what's not real science, what you're able to question, what you're not able to question. And that's crazy. If you see the ad that Kamala Harris put out 3 days before the election talking about equity, she's talking about communism. She's talking about taking part of the playing field away from people and giving it to somebody else. It presents the ad like they're digging people out of a hole so we can all stand on level fields. And to an extent, I think that there are people who are in their situation through no fault of their own. And there are people who make really bad decisions that have put themselves in that situation. And that's unfortunate. But it's not the government's job to fix that. It's our job. Yeah, you heard me. It's our job. Our job to foster charity, to be part of communities, to not let people fall through the cracks, to check on your brothers and your cousins and your sisters and your work friends and the people that you know. It's your job to build a family structure from people who aren't part of your blood. It's your job to build your own church. Not in the physical sense of building a building and you have to become a minister and now you're going out there and preaching, which I have zero problems with that if you want to do that. But a lot of people aren't the get up and talk kind of people. And I understand that the biggest fear in America is public speaking. So understand that maybe you're not in the leadership position. But maybe you join somebody who does outreach and you help out at your local homeless shelter, giving people food and helping people out with clothes and blankets and trying to get people opportunities and give them skills so that way they can get jobs. Maybe you help build community centers and you help build these places like homeless shelters and you help build churches with people, freely donating your time. Those are things that I think would bring us closer. Things that I think that we could do that would actually help. Because the more that I look at these government institutions and the things that they're implementing, like California, for example, the new attorney general that just came in is no longer going to prosecute small larceny. They're no longer going to prosecute drug use. They're no longer going to prosecute vandalism. They're no longer going to prosecute trespassing. Basically, the only thing that they're going to prosecute is murder because, up to almost $1,000 now is still misdemeanor, petty theft or what you would call shoplifting. So it's insane to think that if we no longer enforce these little things that help society stay normal, that help society stay running and regular, that we can all agree are bad for society. Like, it's not good if you go to the grocery store to go pick up your daughter's groceries or diapers or wipes and someone steals your bike while you're in there. Is that nice? No? Well, they're not even really going to get charged. They're going to get a $100 fine slap on the wrist that they really never have to pay. In California, anyways. And that's the kind of policies that are coming down the pipeline. If you look at the two senators who are having runoff elections right now in Georgia, the Democrat senators are crazy. And I don't mean crazy like they belong in a nut house. I mean crazy like their policies will destroy America. And that was said by a lifelong Democrat. I believe Vernon Williams? Vernon... I can't remember exactly his last name. Let me pull that up. Lifelong Democrat who Lifelong Democrat warns Republicans. There we go. Warns Republicans. Of course, Google is not going to show me. Lifelong warns Republicans. Come on, this was just the other day. Why am I on Google? Let's go. Let's see if Bing helps. It might not. It's owned by Microsoft, so let's see. I'm probably going to cut most of this out. Lifelong. No, stop it. Go to actual Bing. Lifelong Democrat warns Republicans. Vernon Jones. That's it. Okay. So lifelong Democrat Vernon Jones actually warned Republicans of how crazy some of these new Democrats are, and said, look, I'm paraphrasing obviously, but he said, look, obviously these new Democrats are a little crazy out here right now, and they're going to destroy America. Like, there's not going to be America anymore. Says lifelong Democrat and Georgia State Representative Vernon Jones says that it's crucial that Republican wins Georgia's 2 Senate seats. If the Senate goes, this country goes. And look, that's it. It's not just me. It's not just Republicans. It's Vernon Jones, who's been a lifelong Democrat forever, and is also a state representative of Georgia. And the reason why he's saying that is because the two guys who are running right now, the black gentleman said that we must disavow and stop celebrating whiteness in America. Which, look, if America was this white supremacist place where people were in roving gangs hunting down minorities and just evil, awful people, then sure, I guess that would be a good statement. But what he's really saying is that we have to get rid of the history of this country. We have to get rid of the history of the West. We have to get rid of the history of Christianity. We have to get rid of the people who came into this country who were persecuted for not being able to express and practice their faith the way that they were, the way they thought was right. The Puritans came over a long time ago and said, this is how we want to practice our faith, and we should be free to do so. And they were free to find their righteousness, and free to find their liberty, and free to find their truth. And all the old writings that people are snubbing and saying are written by evil white men, like William Shakespeare, George Washington, we're talking, Homer's The Odyssey even. And, a lot of people look up to the Greeks, who were the founders of modern reason. And we're just saying, let's throw out the whole thing. Let's throw out the baby with the bathwater. There is nothing good here. We didn't build the only country that has rights. The only one that had enshrined rights. Like, the government has zero ability to interfere with your ability to gather peacefully in protest, to speak, and to become journalists, to defend yourself with whatever means is necessary to do so, up to and including from the federal government itself. The right against illegal search and seizure, the right against being tried twice for the same crime. I mean, we're talking about revolutionary ideas. And he is going to attack those ideas by attacking the people who brought them. And these people can't defend themselves any more than their literature already has. But if you can't read that literature, if you can't read the things that they were talking about, if you can't read the fact that these people didn't believe in slavery, like George Washington didn't believe in slavery. Thomas Jefferson wrote in the Declaration of Independence that one of the reasons why it was all right for America to leave is because the British had enshrined slavery. And that got kicked out because Georgia and I believe South Carolina would not sign the Declaration of Independence if that stayed in there. So in order to preserve their fragile alliance, they took that compromise, which had horribly lasting effects. And in fact, I believe it was George Mason who predicted that 86 years later or so, there would be a civil war in this country. And he was almost right to the day. So it's not like these people didn't think about these issues and what it would cause. And it wasn't that these people were evil or they celebrated whiteness. No, they had different ideas of liberty. But you're talking about the first constitutional democracy ever, really, also known as a representative republic on the federal level. You're talking about 50 constitutional democracies and one constitutional republic all coming together to work in the most revolutionary way politics has ever seen in history. From people who willingly gave up power in order to make sure that everybody had the opportunity to grow and foster and become amazing, to build up capital, to have their own land, to manifest their destiny, and practice their religion and be good, honorable, hardworking people who could go out there and figure out what liberty and what living and fostering for yourself really means. And here we are in the perverted state of these ideas, where people are saying, well, liberty means I can do whatever I want as long as it doesn't hurt you. I can go die, on a heroin bender, and it really doesn't concern you. Which, I think that there are some people who would agree with that. Even way back then. But I think that they would be way far and few between. Liberty and hedonism are not the same thing. Liberty is the idea that you, through your hard work, through your own dedication, through your own steadfast delay of gratification, can turn a unplowed field into a country. Like, you get to be your own king, which means that you have to act responsibly for your people, for your constituents, for your subjects, whatever you want to call them, your family. And so that means that you have to get to the point where you can build for a family. And that idea has changed over the years, from getting a plot of land and building up your own plantation, and then leaving it for your sons and continuing to grow and amass things, to building factories and having your own business. And now it literally just means getting a computer, a television, and a room in a house. And I don't really think that the American dream is that small. I admit that there are grand, amazing things that have happened, and that has led to our ability to live in such comfort and such splendor. But I think that we've let things go since the 1950s. Since World War II. Fast food has gone through the rise. GMOs are everywhere. I'm not decrying all GMOs, but I do think that the availability for gene editing and the creation of such cheap and awful garbage food has really hurt this country. It's created obesity problems. Well, it's lifted people out of poverty, and it's eradicated global hunger on a level that has never happened before in all of history. Like, the last 100 years, global poverty is remarkably small. Like, we have decreased its number. Like, it's 90% less prevalent than it was before in the early 1900s, late 1800s. And we're talking about global hunger hitting rock bottoms. And partly that is because America is the most charitable country that's ever existed. And partly it's because of the widespread availability of food through the technologies that we created. But I don't think that the fact that most millennials don't know how to cook or clean or love or know anything about the Bible, and barely know history at all, are barely scientifically literate, is a problem. And they say, oh, there's more scientific literacy than has ever been before in all of history. And I say, no, I'm sorry, it's not the case at all. Yes, we have more people who are educated now than before, but I think that our literacy rate that has been plummeting for the last 30 years, and our scientific literacy specifically, which has been plummeting for the last 40 years, is abysmal. I bet you could pull 50 people off the street right now, and 2 of them could tell you what a valence electron is. And that's not to say that that is required of scientific literacy, but if you can't explain to me how the scientific method works and why it is important and how it works in a collaborative sense and why people challenge science and why that's part of science, then I don't think that you know what you're talking about. If you can't tell me how we got to this point as a nation from start to finish, if you want to go all the way back to, I don't know, the Mayflower Compact, or you want to go even further than that, you want to go to the Magna Carta, you start with actual English common law and work your way all the way up here. I mean, I would love to hear that, but if you could just tell me how we got here from the Civil War and which parties were responsible for what and what changed and who was an important player and what Woodrow Wilson did and what Teddy Roosevelt did and who Eisenhower was. You tell me those kinds of things, I'll be like, all right, you know your stuff. If you can't tell me that, I don't really know how you made it through school. I don't know why you don't think that's important. Like, okay, not everybody's going to be a political analyst. Not everybody's going to talk about it on YouTube. Not everybody really cares, I guess. But if you're not willing to defend this country and you're not willing to understand what the policies that people talk about really are, and you only read headlines and you look at the news and you don't watch court cases, you don't look at documents, you don't look at firsthand accounts, you don't watch interviews, and you just take clips and snippets and laugh tracks and headlines and you just only look at the mainstream media and you just buy whatever program that they're selling, you're going to be misinformed. And that's not just me who's telling you that. Let's go all the way back to, I don't know, the 1860s, 70s. Mark Twain said, if you read the newspaper, if you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. And if you read the newspaper, you're misinformed. And I think that that's true. I think you should read multiple newspapers, look at multiple sources. If you're going to talk about politics, you should know what you're talking about. And you should be open to ideas from other people. You should listen to every single person as if they have something to teach you. And that's Jordan B. Peterson who taught me that. I was a pretty arrogant guy for a long time. Listened to a lot of Ben Shapiro, a lot of facts don't care about your feelings kind of thing. And he's a good person to start with if you want to learn the fundamentals of American neoconservative thought. And he can reason his positions and he can tell you about all of it. And, you know, he's a devout Jew. I'm a devout Christian. We both have a religious background and it probably influences some of the policies that we like. But I think that without Christians specifically and definitely Jews, because as soon as they were accepted in society, which happened in the early 1900s, probably, they really had a long struggle, just like a lot of other minorities in this country, from the Irish and the Germans to the blacks and the Mexicans and other Hispanics and the Native Americans, women. There was a lot of things that had to come about. And I'm not saying just in this country, this is the whole world. Like, there are places in the Middle East that still have slave trades going, like Libya, for example, in Yemen, which a lot of our military industrial complex helped to, destabilize. I mean, Iran used to be one of the most modern countries in the world, and then their communists went to go fight and they put their theocrats in charge, and when the communists came home, fighting in Afghanistan with the Taliban and the Russians against the United States, then they came back and Iran was a theocracy. It killed all their communists, and now we're in the state that we're at there. And that's partly the CIA's fault. And like I said, I don't have a lot of faith in our institutions anymore. This whole last 4 years has brought to my attention the fact that the head of the Intelligence Council, Swalwell, was courting a spy. You have people like Comey, who was playing both sides and helped cover up the DNC corruption and the fact that Hillary Clinton was bankrolling the whole thing and Obama was pulling the strings. I mean, people say that Obamagate was just a joke. I mean, you can read an opinion piece in the Washington Post right now from May. It's the first thing that pops up on Google. For me, anyways. I don't know what your trending tab looks like. You type in Obamagate, and the first thing is an opinion piece where it derides it. But I'll tell you what, there's proof. The facts and evidence have all come out that Obama, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, the whole DNC were bankrolling. Obama gave up some power to Hillary Clinton while she was running. She bankrolled the DNC. Obama, Joe Biden, and Hillary Clinton pushed foreign adversaries, foreign allies like the Ukraine, and then took money from China and used this money to fund the Fusion GPS dossier through Christopher Steele, who is a British intelligence agent who is giving Hillary Clinton Russian information and Russian hoaxes and Russian intel assets to use to set up a FISA warrant on the Trump team, which is incredible because that's treason. And then now we have the Hunter Biden laptop, which the media didn't report on. That's treason. We have the Ukraine incident.